And I think the fighting starts within 72 hours from now. The really heavy fighting.
After Boris Johnson announced £100 million worth of weapons for Ukraine, and follows one of the most harrowing days we have seen so far in this conflict. Yesterday, a deadly missile struck a railway station in the city of Kramatorsk, where thousands of refugees were hoping to catch a train to flee to safety. At least 50 people, including children, were killed in the attack. The Prime Minister said yesterday that this attack was unconscionable and a show of the depth to which President Vladimir Putin's army has sunk. Meanwhile, 10 humanitarian corridors have been agreed upon to take people to safety, including one from the shattered port city of Mariupol. Well, first, let's go to Robert Fox. Robert is defence editor for the Evening Standard. Robert, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, what do we know about Boris Johnson's trip to Kyiv?
Well, it has been a surprise, and I think there'll be a full back briefing as to what they talked about. But the timing is pretty interesting because, as you heard from Mike Clark of Rusi in your previous programs and on the Times Radio bulletins, is that the Russian forces are getting ready to move in an encircling movement for one of the main targets, which are the so-called independent republics, this is so-called by Russia, of Luhansk and Donetsk. And this is where there is going to be a really big fight. I think from the previous performance, the Russians are ill prepared for it. I don't think they're nearly as well prepared as even Mike may have been suggesting, because they have been performing very much under par now. Now, in order to deal with this, and this is where Boris comes in, Boris Johnson, is that the Ukrainian forces have to do 2 or 3 things, and they have to do at least 2 of them very quickly. They have got to write down, that is, attack the in-depth artillery and rocket systems and missile systems of the type that attacked the railway station at Kramatorsk. They need to cut down this very, very heavy in-depth firing which is coming in at range, 10, 15, 20 miles away. And they need to be able to prepare themselves for very close, intimate, hand-to-hand fighting for various townships, because curiously, up to and including Mariupol in the south, and we've certainly seen it around Kiev, the Russian infantry forces are not much good at that at the moment.
And Robert, people are just reacting on Twitter. As you say, this visit was, of course, shrouded in secrecy for obvious security reasons. Some people tweeting now, Tobias Elwood. In fact, you and Tobias were on one of my Sunday political panels a couple of weeks ago. Tobias Elwood has tweeted, this is to a picture of Boris Johnson with President Zelensky. Our time to lead a coalition of the willing, step beyond NATO's self-imposed limits and help train and arm Ukraine to victory. Someone else has also made a really interesting point, saying Boris Johnson's surprise visit to Kyiv is a strong and symbolic move, but it will become practical and historic if it results in Ukraine finally getting scores of heavy weaponry and air defence as soon as possible. What's your reaction to those kinds of comments?
I think they're pretty well on the mark, because what is so worrying this weekend, Ayesha, as we look at it, we've seen Germany stumbling, haven't we? Because despite the cordial terms of the meeting between Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, and Boris Johnson in London, the Germans are saying they're not going to stop buying oil and gas, because they can't do it in the immediate future. And that means all the hard criticism actually is fair, because that money from the German treasury is going in to fund the Russian war machine. And this puts them in a very difficult position. And look, on the other hand, look at the news coming out of France. We have just had the first opinion poll saying that Marine Le Pen is actually ahead. Now, Marine Le Pen believes in cordial relations, and she's had personal cordial relations with Vladimir Putin.
She's borrowed money. She's borrowed money from him.
Absolutely. And is she going to line up with Viktor Orban, who has just had this thumping victory last weekend in Hungary. And he is saying, no, 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 we're not going to get involved in this war at all. And this is where Tobias is absolutely right, because we can see now that there are countries that are absolutely in the eye of the storm, like the Poles, who are in the EU and are a British NATO ally, and the Finns, for example, and the Swedes, who are not in NATO, and the 3 Baltic republics. I'm not going to go completely through the list, but these are the key nations now: the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, and Bulgaria. They want help, and they want help from Britain. And one of the things mentioned in Tobias's list is training. And we've got to get in there to help train them, particularly in what I was saying, fighting in built-up areas. But there's one thing that they have emphasized, which is so important. We have got to help Ukraine manage air defense. We've really got to help.
What does that mean? What does that mean, Robert? Does that mean no-fly zone? Does that mean giving them more offensive weapons? What does that mean?
Ideally, it would be a no-fly zone, but we know that they're not going to go there. Second best is really good air defense missile systems of all kinds, really ramping them up. The Slovaks have sent in S-300s, they're old, very late Soviet style air defense missiles, but they're pretty good, and things have been doing pretty well there. But there are things like Starstreak, which Boris Johnson has said we will send. But, you know, that I think that what Vladimir Zelensky will be saying to him, look, Boris, you can't hold off for 10 days. The stuff has got to come pumping through now, because at the moment we're in an operational pause. And I think the fighting starts within 48, 72 hours from now. The really heavy fighting.
Well, Robert, it's always good to speak with you and get your insight. Thanks very much for speaking to us this afternoon.